I've always loved dates, not in the sense of going on dates, although that too, but the kind with numbers, days that stick in your mind. I'm the type who remembers the day we first saw snow together in Wisconsin, the day he bought our couch on sale at IKEA, even the day he accidentally called me Mom while talking to the dog. It was a Friday. Late January. That's when I thought maybe this is serious. Today is our 8th wedding anniversary. The 3rd of June. I woke up at 6:30 as usual. Made coffee, walked Charlie, our terrier, and the first thing I did was open my jewelry box. I laid out 3 pairs of earrings and 2 necklaces on the bed, though I knew I'd wear the same one, a delicate chain with a heart-shaped pendant. He gave it to me on our first anniversary when we were in Boston, broke, but with $8 champagne and spotty Wi-Fi at the hotel. Things are different now. We've grown up, more settled. He works in finance, something to do with corporate deals, though honestly, I still don't get the details. And I'm a brand strategist at an agency in Chicago. I love what I do. I create meaning for others, help companies find their voice. Funny, isn't it? I can find someone else's voice in 5 minutes, but my own, that's a bit harder. By evening, I was ready. The dress dark blue with an open back. Not flashy, but memorable. The shoes, the same ones I almost slipped on the stairs at his office when I was just starting at the agency. I even curled my hair again like that year when we went to Sonoma and he said I looked like a woman from a wine commercial. He looked at me then like everything else disappeared. I booked a table at Lumiere, a new restaurant on Fulton Market. Not too loud, but trendy enough for him to appreciate. I reserved a month ago and wrote in the comments, 8th anniversary, preferably by the window. I bought him a watch vintage Omega with an engraving on the back for every second we stayed. I practiced my toast, right there in the bathroom while drying my hair. 8 years, 96 months, 2,920 days. Thank you for choosing me every day, you and me. But already in the car, I felt something strange. Alex was quiet, not the usual tired from work quiet, not the lost in a deal quiet. It was more like frozen, dry. He kissed me on the cheek, got behind the wheel, and kept his eyes on the road. Didn't comment on my earrings, even though he usually notices those things. I tried not to read too much into it. "You'll love it," I said, smiling. "They have this insane corn and lobster cream soup I read a review in the Chicago Tribune." He nodded. "You always find something interesting." He said interesting. Not romantic, not delicious, just interesting. And something in his voice? It sounded less like a compliment and more like a statement of fact. Like he was on autopilot while everything inside him was already somewhere else. Outside the car. Outside the evening. Maybe outside of us. But I pushed those thoughts away. Because this is our anniversary. Because I tried. Because we didn't fight. Because I didn't want to be the one who sees problems where everything's fine. And if it's not fine, maybe it's just a bad day? After all, that's what we all read, right? Articles, books, forums. Be his safe place. Keep the peace at home. Don't ask too many questions, men don't like drama. So I sat there, knowing something was wrong, and pretended everything was perfect. When we arrived, he offered to give the car to the valet. He took my hand to help me out. He even smiled, but it was a passing smile. Like an actor who knows exactly what scene is coming up, but also knows what's really behind it. The restaurant was beautiful. White tablecloths, open kitchen, soft lighting. Our table by the window was cozy. I ordered a glass of Chardonnay. He ordered bourbon. Usually it's the other way around. I almost joked about it, but stayed silent. He sat across from me in a black jacket, wearing those same watches I gave him on our 3rd anniversary. He looked at the menu. I looked at him. And suddenly, for the first time all evening, he looked up, straight at me. And I understood. Everything. But I held it together. Still believed it was just stress, just fatigue, just something. Not this. Not the end. Because I did everything right, didn't I? I was attentive. I was caring. I wasn't that wife who nags, demands, dramatizes. I supported, didn't argue, compromised, believed we could fix it. I thought that was enough. It had to be enough. But all I felt that night, under the sound of violins and the clinking glasses at nearby tables, was silence. The kind that screams louder than anything else. I've always been surprised how, in Hollywood movies, dramatic scenes happen with loud music, tears, broken glasses, and lines like, "I don't need you anymore," or, "You betrayed me." But in real life, things often fall apart in silence, very politely, almost kindly, with fresh bread on the table and sage sauce. "I think we need to talk," Alex said, not looking up from the menu. He said it like he was deciding whether to order risotto. Calmly, clearly, without emotion. The tone of someone who's long since made up their mind, now just informing, like a newsletter. At first, I didn't even understand. "Sorry, what did you say?" He still held the menu as if looking for somewhere to hide his eyes. "I think we need to get a divorce." He finally looked at me. "I'm serious, Claire." "Honestly?" I thought he was joking. We hadn't had a big fight, no cheating, nothing that should have been discussed prime time. I laughed quietly, a bit unnaturally, then suddenly realized he wasn't blinking. He was really serious. The laughter vanished. I felt heat rise from my neck to my cheeks, and at the same time a strange numbness in my fingers, like I wasn't in my body, but in a body watching itself. "Right now?" I managed to say. "Here?" "I didn't want to drag it out," he said. "I just thought maybe it's better to say it straight. No lies, no pretending. Yeah, honesty. Honest John. Right on the anniversary. At a table with napkins folded like lotuses." Somewhere in the corner, someone had just gotten engaged. A waiter dropped a fork, people laughed, and I think I stopped breathing. He went on. "We've become strangers. We live like neighbors. You're always busy. I'm always busy. It's not working, Claire." He took a sip of bourbon. "I found an apartment in Lincoln Park. I've already signed the lease. I'm moving out this weekend." "You, already, signed, the lease. Amazing. And apparently, I'm the last to know." The gift I had so carefully chosen was still in my purse, still in the box, tied with a ribbon. I imagined pulling it out, placing it in front of him and handing it over with his words, "I'm moving out this weekend." An absurd picture. But I never took the gift out. Glasses continued to clink around us. At the next table, a couple was discussing Amarone prices. In the corner, a girl with perfectly styled hair laughed. The world didn't know I'd just been sentenced without a lawyer, without warning, without a chance to appeal. I didn't yell. I didn't throw a glass. I just sat there, leaning forward a little, as if I could focus on the texture of the tablecloth or how the light reflected in his glass, it would all stop being real. "You could have said this at home," I exhaled. "I knew that at home you'd start asking questions, but here..." He shrugged. "Here you're more likely to take it calmly." "Oh, of course! How convenient! The restaurant as a safety cushion." "Yes, brilliant move. Say this in a public place, less chance the wife throws a tantrum. Too many eyes, too much decorum. Someone might even leave a Yelp review later." I looked at him. At the man I shared not just a home with, but plans, habits, a language, Sunday views, Monday silences. I didn't recognize him. It felt like he wasn't my husband, but an actor playing the role of middle-class divorcing man. I didn't even cry. Something inside me shut down, switched off. I couldn't show any emotion, like my body decided, "Wait, preserve yourself first, process later." "Are you really ready to do this just like that?" I finally asked. "No talks? No attempt to understand anything?" He looked down. "Claire, if we could understand anything, we wouldn't be here." He pressed his lips together for a moment. "I don't feel like myself around you anymore." That was new. Not, "I don't love you," not, "You hurt me." But, "I don't feel like myself around you." Perfect. So all these years I tried to support, inspire, build a life that would be comfortable for him, and he doesn't feel like himself. Sometimes I think men go through a crisis of identity every 3 years, and one of us has to be in the kitchen to hand them water. The waiter came with the main course and froze. I realized he heard, or felt it. He put the plates down as quietly as possible and left as fast as he could. I looked at the food. Salmon with parsnip puree cost $48. Now as cold as my face? Do you want me to leave now? I asked quietly. Or shall we finish dinner? I don't know, he mumbled. Maybe we should finish everything. I didn't know if he meant dinner or us. And I didn't want to know anymore. I raised my glass of wine. My hand trembled. The wine almost spilled. To the truth, I said, and took a sip. The taste was bitter, but not from the wine. If someone had sat at the next table, just a passerby, a tourist from Iowa, or a young guy on a Tinder date, they would have thought we were having a calm, even civilized conversation. Husband and wife probably discussing work, or maybe a vacation, or, as it turned out, the end of a marriage. Alex sat with a straight back and a slightly tense jaw, like he was negotiating a deal. Maybe he'd rehearsed this in front of the mirror, on the way here, in his head. Claire, I want you to know you deserve someone better. He said it almost tenderly. You're so smart, strong, conscientious. It's not working. It's not you, it's me. It's not you, it's me. I felt a switch flip inside me. This was it, the moment. I looked at him and thought, are you serious right now? You're pulling out the whole how to leave your ex-wife playbook? What's next? You'll find someone who loves you the way I couldn't? He went on. You've always been stable, responsible. You plan everything. You're always in control. He said it with a slight hint of resentment. And I felt lost in all that. Oh yes, I'm too stable. How unbearable it must be having someone next to you who keeps everything in order. When you don't wake up hungover in Arizona because someone booked your return ticket on time. When you have dinner because someone remembered the milk, butter, and food ran out. When someone apologizes to your mother for you. When someone makes reality comfortable and you call it control. I stayed silent. But inside, scenes played one after another. How I stayed up nights finishing his client presentations because he didn't have time. How I kept quiet when he interrupted me in front of his friends. You misunderstood, Claire. I was just joking. How I listened when he said, it's not worth having kids in this world while secretly giving away baby clothes I bought to my friends. How I ironed shirts before his interviews while missing a grant deadline because we can't handle 2 overloads at once. I held on. I held on because I thought, this happens in marriage. It's a phase. It's temporary. But temporary became a lifestyle. And now he says he lost himself next to me. And I remembered. I remember the moment I first felt him drifting away. It was a Friday evening last fall. I came home early, ordered sushi, opened our favorite Pinot Noir. He came in with flowers. But he smelled of someone else's perfume, not mine, not ours. He said, I picked up flowers at Whole Foods. They had a new scent in the section. I believed him. Number I didn't believe. I decided to believe. Because the alternative was unbearable. Because it was easier to be foolish than hurt. Because I loved. Now I looked at him. At this tired man who said everything he was supposed to, like a script. You deserve more. I'm confused. I tried, honestly. I'm not happy anymore. And at some point I realized, me too. I'm not happy anymore either, not for a long time. He said, we lost intimacy, you became cold. I thought, you left me alone in this marriage, and now you complain that I froze? But I said nothing. I just listened. Listened as the man across from me freed himself from guilt. Justified himself. Calmed himself. Told himself and me that he was doing the right thing. And suddenly, I felt lightness. Lightness amidst pain. As if somewhere deep inside me where it had long been tight, it had become free. He finished speaking. He looked at me. Waiting, maybe for tears, maybe a scene, maybe please. And I looked at him and no longer recognized him. Not because he had changed, but because I no longer tried not to notice. He didn't leave today only. He had been leaving for a long time. In pieces. With every postponed conversation, with every unanswered text, with every let's do it later. And I held on. Out of fear, out of love, out of stubbornness, out of duty. But now only one question to myself was louder than all. Why? I stared at him for a long moment. Alex still sat there with that same careful, tense politeness like replying to a work email with a complaint. He had done his part, delivered the breakup properly. No drama. He probably thought of himself as a man of honor now. And suddenly I felt it. I no longer had to play that role. I slowly put my glass down on the table. Smiled. At first, just the corner of my lips. Then a real smile. Not out of anger, but like someone who just remembered where her spine and her voice were inside. I reached for the glass again, raised it. Alex looked surprised. Well then, I said softly, here's to freedom. A small pause. To yours and mine. His eyebrows rose just a little. He didn't expect that. Neither calmness, nor a toast, nor this lightness. I'm glad you made the decision, I continued, looking him straight in the eyes. And, strangely, for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm breathing too. I took a sip. A faint whisper swept through the room. The neighboring tabla couple, an older man in a blazer and a woman with pearls, quieted, no pretending. They didn't need to know the context. The silence between us said it all. Then I pulled out an envelope. Black, thick, a little crumpled at the edge. I'd been carrying it in my bag for 2 weeks, just in case. And that case had come. Oh, yes, I said. Before you go, I want to give you something. I handed him the envelope. He took it mechanically and opened it. Inside were a set of documents. Legal, official, signed. At first, his face didn't change at all. Then, as he read, his eyebrows slowly drew together. This is, he started, is this the apartment papers? I nodded. Remember last year you put the apartment in my name for tax optimization purposes? Your idea. I told you then, let's check with a lawyer. I paused. You said, trust me. He was silent, apparently recalling. Then muttered, I only signed a temporary power of attorney. No, Alex, you signed everything. You just didn't read it as usual. I lifted my glass again, this time higher. So, congratulations. The apartment is now completely mine. A second of silence. Then another. The restaurant seemed to freeze. Somewhere in the background, a waiter paused with a tray holding steaming pasta and sparkling wine. A couple at another table watched us like in a movie. And suddenly I realized, I'm the movie, only now I'm the director. Alex opened his mouth, then closed it. Then opened it again. You had no right to do this behind my back. His voice held resentment, the kind of male anger hidden behind the word rationality. I didn't do anything behind your back, I said calmly. I just read what you refused to read. I gave you freedom. And you gave me mine. And now we both have something valuable. He put the papers down on the table. His hands trembled slightly. He tried to say something, but none of his rehearsed scripts worked anymore. I grabbed my bag. Slowly, without rush. Looked back at the table. At the candle almost burned out. At the rosé wine. At the man I'd lived with for 7 years. Good luck, Alex. I hope your freedom is worth what you lost. I stood up. Straight, confident. The scene was over. And just as I passed the tables, someone softly tapped their glass. To her, someone said. And I heard another voice say, damn. In this silence, in this room full of strangers' voices, I walked for the first time at my own pace. Not defeated. Not abandoned. But beginning again. When I got into the car, the air inside felt heavy, like before a storm. I held myself together with all my might. But inside a wave was rising. Not anger, not pain. Awareness. I started the engine but didn't move. Just sat there staring ahead, as if expecting something to change. And then it hit me. Like someone peeled back the film from memories and they came one after another, frame by frame. I remembered how it all began. Chicago, 2013. I had just moved, rented a tiny studio on Southport, wore a secondhand blazer, and believed I could make it in marketing no matter what. Alex was working in IT, then stable, confident, with that permanent smug grin like someone who thought he'd already won. He was charming, knew how to behave with waiters, taxi drivers, friends at barbecues. And was hungry. Hungry for life. For recognition. For love. He looked at me with interest, but always a little from above. "You're so ambitious, Claire," he said. "That's cute. You'll grow out of it when you want to start a family." I laughed then, thought he was joking. He wasn't. We got married 2 years later. A small ceremony in Sonoma. His mom cried. Mine adjusted my veil. I remember his toast at the reception. "My Claire is a real ray of sunshine. I hope she'll always be there when it's dark for me." At the time, it sounded beautiful. Now I hear the subtext, "Be there when I'm down. Shine. Don't get in the way." Then the everyday life started. I worked at a startup long days, paycheck barely covering parking. He came home and clicked his tongue, looking at the kitchen. "What, didn't even manage to make mac and cheese?" I joked back. Wrapped it in irony. Swallowed it whole. He invited friends over on Fridays and in front of them joked. Claire here decided to be the CEO of her little marketing world again. They laughed. I laughed with them. But inside, every time, it felt like I was being taken apart bit by bit. One day, I brought home news. I got a promotion. Not just a promotion, I was trusted with the whole company brand. My first big contract, my own little office, my own projects. I waited for him to say, "I'm proud of you." He said, "Well, marketing is half a scam anyway." And added, "You just happened to be in the right place at the right time, luck, not talent." I was silent again. Because I believed family was about compromises, that support is complicated, that he was just tired. There was also a moment when I felt he was cheating. It was December. He came home late, put his phone face down, went straight to the shower as soon as he crossed the threshold. I had no proof, but I had intuition. And it screamed. I said nothing. Just bought myself good wine, sat in silence and wrote in my notebook. If you didn't say it today, it doesn't mean you didn't notice. You're just waiting for the moment. And that moment came. Today. In the restaurant. By candlelight. I stared into the night through the windshield, recalling every moment I'd silenced myself. When I covered up, when I praised him in front of friends, when I sat at his conference pretending to be interested, while my own ideas, my own dreams spun in my head. I held on, but why? Why be a flashlight for someone who switched off the light himself? It hurt, yes. But it was the kind of pain that thaws a frozen foot. At first, you feel nothing, and then you come alive. Come alive. And it's not about revenge. It's not about getting even. It's about finally hearing myself. For the first time in years, I went back to the restaurant to grab my coat. On autopilot, almost in a trance, I walked past the tables where the usual gentle bustle had returned. Glasses clinking, the rustle of napkins, the tinkle of silverware. No one was looking my way anymore. Or maybe they just pretended not to. Alex was already gone. The chair was empty. The tablecloth was still neatly smoothed out, the wine glass half full. I approached the coat check. The waitress, the same one who served our appetizer, with a copper ponytail and a mole on her cheekbone, was standing behind the counter and looking at me. When I got closer, she leaned forward slightly and whispered almost inaudibly, "You're amazing, I just wanted you to know that." I froze. For a second. Then nodded, not trusting my own voice. She smiled, not the polite, "thank you, come again" smile, but a genuine one. The kind shared between people who've been through something similar. Women who once heard the words, "we need to talk." I stepped out into the warm June night and breathed in the air like medicine. I didn't drive home. I couldn't. I turned onto Fremont Street and parked near a bar that used to seem too noisy to me. Iron Tap, a small place with neon lights and barrels instead of tables. I went inside. It was crowded but somehow friendly. I sat in a corner at the bar and ordered a whiskey and cola, not something I drank often, just something honest, without ceremony. I took a sip and felt the tension in my shoulders loosen for a moment, almost, and then I saw her. Claire? I turned around. Standing in front of me was Lauren Davis, my dorm mate from Northwestern. Curly-haired, in a denim jacket, with the same green eyes, now confident and laughing. "Oh my God," I breathed out. "Lauren!" We hugged like no 10 years had passed. She ordered a cider and sat next to me, and while the bar hummed with noise, we sank into our little cocoon of memories. "I just left the restaurant," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "He told me he wants a divorce, on our anniversary, right over a goat cheese salad." Lauren raised her eyebrows. "Seriously? What a jerk! Just like some cheap Hulu drama." I nodded. Laughter caught in my throat, dry but alive. And then suddenly I felt a tear welling up, not from pain, from everything at once. "I held on," I whispered. "For years. Worked, endured, explained, always thought this was how it should be, that this is love, that family is the price you pay for your own voice." Lauren looked at me seriously. "Claire, I always knew you deserved more, even when you hid your articles so as not to hurt his ego. Remember how you wrote late into the night in the campus library? You shone brighter than all those geniuses with grants. Just too kind, too patient." She took my hand. "You finally got out of the cage. Even if you didn't open the door yourself, you're out now." I didn't know what to say. The world around us was noisy, someone singing, total eclipse of the heart on the karaoke machine, someone ordering a second round of beer. And there we were, two women who once studied statistics together and shared a frozen pizza box on the dorm floor, now sharing a moment of silence, understanding, and strength. "I'm scared," I said suddenly. Not of being alone, but of not knowing where to start. Everything I built was tied to him, to us. And now, nothing. Lauren smirked. "That's not true. You have you. And that's always been the most valuable thing." She took a sip of her cider, tousled her hair, and added, "And you have me too. I never went anywhere. And maybe now that waitress as well. We're building an army." We laughed. And in that moment, surrounded by the smell of beer, bar neon, and songs from the past, I realized, I am no longer alone. And this is not the end. This is a turning point. A week passed. I woke up on Saturday without an alarm clock for the first time in a long while. Next to me, silence. No stray socks on the floor, no smell of his coffee, no eternal "you forgot to put the toothpaste cap back on again." Just morning. And me. At my own pace. I brewed myself a strong coffee in the mug that said, "Own Your Magic," the one Lauren gave me that night at the bar. I sat on the balcony. Chicago was already starting to get warm, one of those rare June mornings when the air smells like freedom. I grabbed my phone and there it was. "Alex." "Claire, I can't stop thinking about our conversation. Maybe we both rush things. Maybe we should reconsider everything." I stared at the screen like he was trying to hypnotize me. Rushed? Reconsider? This was the same man who a week ago looked me in the eyes over a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon and without a shred of emotion said, "I want a divorce," as if ordering dessert. As if taking my life away coldly, civilly, conveniently. Now, it seemed he felt a draft where everything was under control before. A couple of hours later, another message. "I remembered how you supported me during those hard years. Without you, I wouldn't have made it." And then the cherry on top. "You're so strong. Too strong to just give it all up like this." Ah, there it is. Now my strength is his argument. Now I'm his resource. A support, an inspiration, a wife battery he wants to plug back into his system. Convenient. Calm. No outbursts, no your ambitions, no unexpected trips to Tokyo. Speaking of Tokyo, I bought a ticket, just like that. Opened the website, chose a direct flight to Haneda, picked a window seat, and hit book now. It was completely illogical. No vacation planned, no itinerary, no "who are you going with?" Just me. And the thought, why not? I'd dreamed of Japan for a long time. Back in college, I read Murakami, tried to learn hiragana, sketched pagodas in my notebook. But something always got in the way. Him. Tokyo? Too noisy. Let's go to Scottsdale to my parents. There's a spa. Now? Now I don't ask for permission. Things moved at work too. On Monday, my boss Christina, sharp and fast like an espresso shot, called me into her office. "Listen, Claire," she said, looking over her glasses. "I saw how you pulled through the Jensen and Gold project. You didn't just keep the client, you inspired them. We want to make you brand director." I caught my breath. I didn't expect it. But isn't that what I've been working for all this time? Christina extended her hand. "We'll give you a team, a budget, and full freedom. You earned it." And then I thought, I earned this, not thanks to anyone, but despite everything. Alex kept messaging. On the third day, he sent a photo of the cat. "She misses you, and so do I. By the way, the cat stayed with me, she never went anywhere." I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because there was no reason anymore. He wasn't writing because he loved me. He was writing because he was afraid to be alone. Male insecurity when a familiar role disappears, a scary thing. Alex wasn't ready for me, not begging, not crying, not asking to work on things. He was ready to be the hero of a movie where he made a mistake, then came back, said sorry, and I, moved, ran into his arms. He didn't know I was already in a different movie. The irony was that now he looked like the abandoned victim. Messaging at 3 a.m., liking my stories. Suddenly attentive. "How's your presentation? I know you're nervous." And I realized he didn't want me. He wanted the version of me who would be near, but in the shadows. Who compliments but doesn't interfere. And I am no longer a shadow. The next Friday, I sat in O'Hare Airport with a paper cup of coffee and a ticket to Tokyo. And I thought, if he hadn't said that phrase that night, maybe I'd still be silent. Enduring. Wearing someone else's happiness like a heavy dress. Sometimes you have to be crushed to realize you have wings. I was sitting in a small cafe in Shibuya. The morning was sunny but quiet, as if the city itself decided to give me a break. The coffee was tart, just the way I like it. Outside the window, an endless stream of people, each with their own story. I opened my laptop, opened a new tab on Medium, and typed the headline, "Anniversary of Freedom." My fingers trembled, not from fear, but because I was about to do something I'd avoided all these years, call things by their real names. The words poured out fast. I told how he said, "We need to talk," between the salad and the main course in a restaurant with white tablecloths and duty-bound candles. How I looked at him, trying to catch a single, real emotion, but all I heard were cliches from internet forums. "You deserve better. It's not you, it's me. I'm burned out. We're different." How I sat there like I was underwater. And later raised my glass and said, "To freedom, yours and mine." I wrote about how over the years I bent, stayed silent, compromised, gave in, and called it love. How I erased myself so he could shine. How I endured to keep intact the family that had long since fallen apart. And how he left. And how I stayed. Not a victim, not a shadow, but myself. I wrote for a long time. Precisely as if I was finally piecing together a map of where I'd lost myself. And found myself. At the end, I wrote, "I didn't lose a husband. I found myself again." And if you're reading this and see yourself in these lines, know this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not difficult, ungrateful, or dramatic. You are simply no longer willing to be furniture in someone else's home. Asterisk, asterisk. I hit publish. And went for a walk. Just like that. With no purpose. When I returned to the hotel a couple of hours later, I opened my phone and it was literally exploding. Notifications, comments, messages. Hundreds, then thousands. One woman wrote, "It's like I heard myself for the first time in years. Thank you for finding the words I couldn't." Another, I'm sitting in the office reading this and crying. They told me it's not you, it's me. Then again. And again. Tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce. Thank you, Claire. My inbox was flooded with letters. Someone sent a photo with the words on a mirror. My anniversary of freedom today. Someone else wrote a single word. Thank you. The article made it to editors' picks, then Twitter, then Reddit. Women shared it with one another. Their voices formed a chorus. Powerful, quiet, many-voiced. One you don't hear in perfume ads or Zoom marriage counseling. Alex? He read it, of course. He left a comment. Anonymous. Like, maybe you shouldn't have made your private life public? But I knew it was him. He always had a mania for controlling the narrative. I smiled. He wanted to be the hero in my story. But he became just part of the context. That evening, I went out onto the hotel roof. The Tokyo sky was covered in lights, like the city's reflection on water. I stood there, arms wrapped around myself, and suddenly I realized I had found my voice again. Not to prove anything, not to seek revenge, but simply to be. I'm not his ex-wife. I am the author of this story. Exactly 1 year later to the minute I found myself in the same restaurant again. Valencia's on Green Street. The very same, with handcrafted glasses, heavy tablecloths, and a menu where every dish sounds like a prelude to a confession. Back then, I sat here with my husband, believing I was holding something important in my hands. Today, I'm sitting here alone. Not because there's no one else, but because I want to be alone. I came in a simple black dress, hair tied up in a bun just like I like. But now, not for anyone, not to please, fit in, or belong. I simply am calm, with a whole year in my pocket that didn't break me, but put me back together. On the table, my laptop. On the screen, a new article is open. The woman who stayed and found herself. I'm sitting and writing, not because I have to, but because I can't not write. I order wine the same Cabernet Sauvignon. But now it's not tied to pain or pretense. Now it's just wine. And then, dessert. That very lemon tart with rosemary I never got to try a year ago because the divorce talk spoiled even the taste of water. The waiter approaches, smiling politely. I remember him. He recognizes me too. Excuse me, he bows slightly. Are you Claire Bennett from Medium? I smile. No, I say, I'm the new one. He laughs, a bit embarrassed, but doesn't argue. Waiters, by the way, can feel energy too. And it seems today I'm bringing it with me. A year ago, I left this restaurant empty, feeling like something big was taken from me. But you know what turned out to be true? No one took anything away. He just left, and I stayed. And I was able to grow. Into someone I was never allowed to be. I started saying yes to myself. Saying no to what was eating me up. I'm working with major clients, writing not just articles. I was invited to speak at a conference in Austin. I read other people's stories and see strength in them. I see pieces of myself in them. I raise my glass, but not for someone else. Not for someone else's success, not for relationships that almost worked. I raise my glass for me. To a new anniversary, I say out loud, the one I choose myself. At the next table, a young woman glances at me. She's sitting with someone who seems to be arguing about her career, interrupting, making passive remarks. Our eyes meet. I give her a slight smile, no words. And suddenly I realize, maybe once I looked at someone like that, someone who was already on the other side. Now I am there. When the check arrives, the waiter winks. Dessert is on the house. The manager said, tell the one with the story about freedom. I laugh, almost cry. Because in that simple gesture, the whole truth, a woman who stays true to herself inspires everyone still on their journey. I step outside. The wind is warm, like a silk scarf. I walk home slowly, no rush, no looking back. On my wrist, a new tattoo. Begin again. Not as a symbol of pain, but as a choice. I stepped out of the restaurant and took a deep breath. Fresh, warm air scented with jasmine and wet asphalt after watering. In my ears, my AirPods. The playlist is called Moving Forward. The first track plays Dog Days Are Over by Florence plus the Machine. I smile. Because, yes, the dog days are behind me. The pain is behind me. The years of anxious Sundays are behind me. The need to please, to fear, to explain myself, all left somewhere in yesterday. I walk down the street, not fast, not because I'm tired, but because I have nowhere to rush. Ahead my route, I choose it. I have tickets to New York next week, a business meeting with a creative agency that offered me a collaboration. After that, maybe Lisbon. Or San Francisco. Who knows? I have a list of cities I want to feel. A list of books I plan to finish. People I want to talk to. A life where I no longer need to ask for permission. I pass by a storefront with neon signs. In pink light, it reads, "You are exactly where you need to be." I stop. Look at myself in the reflection. Shoulders straight, gaze steady. I believe in myself. And it's a new feeling, not loud, calm, like morning coffee on the balcony. I take out my phone and open my Medium column. The very one that changed everything. I scroll down and read the last paragraph aloud. Let only I hear it, but my voice sounds firm, like a vow. When you're left behind, it's not the end. Sometimes it's exactly what saves you. Because no one should stay where they are not seen, not heard, not awaited. Leaving is not defeat. Sometimes it's a return to yourself. I hit save as voice note and add this clip to my playlist. Now it's part of my soundtrack. My truth, my reminder. I get into an Uber. The driver is a woman around 50. She has a pendant hanging from her mirror that says, "Still becoming." "Nice pendant," I say. "Yeah," she replies. I remind myself I'm not finished, it's just the beginning. We smile at each other. And at that moment, I know for sure I am not alone. When people ask me now, "So how do you feel after everything?" I answer simply, light. Not because it's easy now, but because now it's honest. The end? Number. This is not the end. It's just another step. One day. One woman. With streets full of possibilities. With music in her ears. And a heart that no longer holds fear, guilt, or the need to be someone else's. Just herself. The end of the story, but not its end.